Joining us today, and I'm so happy to introduce you to our guest, Elisha Lee. Thank you, Elisha, for being here today. So, I've just started a podcast called Mixed Needs Mama, and I'm dealing with helping families that have neurodivergent and neurotypical children under the same roof. 3 of my kids are on the autism spectrum, and 1 is neurotypical. So navigating that, talking about the journey, joy in the journey, that's a big part of what I talk about because it's just hard. I used to call my mom and say, it just shouldn't be this hard. Everything is so hard when all my kids were little. And I just was exhausted trying to maneuver 4 children who just thought about everything completely differently and experienced life completely differently. Because even though 3 are autistic, they present differently from each other. So, as a professional, first of all, how do you marry the humanistic views of psychology with the scripture? And how do you deal with the differences where I think some of psychology tries to do away with God in a way? I used to teach AP psychology and took psychology in my bachelor's, and that was always a tension I felt. How do you handle that part, first of all? How do you handle that tension between the humanistic view and the no God view to Christian counseling?
Well, first of all, something that I believe I learned early in my ministry years is that you meet people where they are. To me, it's all about showing others the love of God. Something that's profound that came to me is John 3:16. It's because of the love of God, because of his love for us, we know salvation. So the love was the catalyst that brought change. Imagine what that would be like if we were more conduits of his love and showed it to others. Imagine what the world would be like. Because with salvation, we go from death to life, right?
Right.
Now I'm going to answer your question. That's how I flow, that's how I move. So when people bring up things like third eye, when people bring up things like healing through Reiki and things like that, while I'm respectful and I'm kind and I'm caring, I establish a boundary around that. And I just say that's just not something, like, if that's something you're looking for, then I can refer you to this person or this organization. But we cover things around these types of modalities.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily turn people away per se. I give them an option. Look, if you want to hang out with me, we're not going to focus on those things. Now, I also provide people with a choice. So, do you want the more clinical side or do you want the mixture? Because the name of the practice does bear the word Christian. So, people kind of know what they're getting into when they see me.
True.
So, I don't even touch those things that you're referring to. Because to me, if it's not integrated within the Word of God, where's the power?
True. And where's the truth?
I mean, I don't know of any other book that's a religious book where people read it and they get healed just from reading it. I know of people who've read the Bible and they've gotten miracles, physical miracles, just from reading the Bible. I don't know of any other religion that does that. Only God. That's only God. So to me, that shows that it is a living and breathing word. And that's what I focus on within my practice and how I move. Even when I get people, so I get all kinds of people on Elisha Space. Some people are saved, some people are not saved, and most people really are seeking, right? Even from the professional space. Because if they've got something that could help the audience and make them aware of something that's happening, who am I to tell them, you can't come on the show? You know what I mean? Because it might
Mm-hmm.
help someone. But I do let them know we reflect the Christian faith. So I just ask that you respect that boundary. And they do. So I hope that answers your question, that I
Yeah.
just set a boundary around it. And if people are looking for something different, then I'll say, well, I don't really flow in that area. I can refer you to somebody that does it stronger than me or does it better than me, or however you want to say that. But
Hmm.
this is what I represent here. Also, add, I don't turn anybody away. Whatever they choose to listen to, that's what they choose to do. So Jesus never turned anybody away.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. And they didn't understand right away what was going on and who he was. And the disciples walked with him even before they understood who he truly was. Another question I have for you along these lines is, as I'm talking with families, I encourage them to be brutally honest with themselves when they need help.
Right.
So, can you give us some guidelines of when a family, especially mixed needs family, might need to seek help for maybe the neurotypical child? What are some signs that we can see that there's trouble ahead, that that child is feeling invisible and we don't know how to bridge the gaps? What would be some things you could give to help parents know when to seek professional help?
So this is what I'll say. Even though that wonderful, beautiful child may not have the vocabulary, they can feel your energy. You know what I mean? Like you're still biologically connected to them, especially as mothers, because we still carry parts of our children for years after, for generations, we carry them. We want to be careful whenever we're getting to that place where our overwhelm is feeling like we can't function from day to day, then most definitely you want to try to work on seeking professional help, because believe me, your child is feeling that and they're going to react to that, not understanding how to move within that. So you made a statement, as you said, every day feels hard. To me, that says this is a mother who is extremely stressed, who is feeling isolated, alone, and unsupported. Even though you may have had that, that's what I heard you say. At that point, you want to work in getting some professional help.
Yeah, I don't want people to be afraid to do that. Even for our children, I have had parents who didn't want their child diagnosed too early. They didn't want them pigeonholed because they feel like that inhibits that child. When you're dealing with something like autism or ODD or any of those kinds of disorders, the earlier the intervention, the earlier we get help for them, the better that child can blossom, can flourish. And the further they can go, especially when you're talking about nonverbal autistic children. I've seen amazing things happen with my own little cousin who was nonverbal and she's now using sign language and actually speaks a few words. She got early intervention. Her mom talked to me and I said, whatever intervention you can get it now. Don't wait. And she's so happy she did because it's helped her to just really flourish. We have to admit when we're feeling burned out. I felt really unsupported because I was on the mission field, had no family around. We were working so much. It was really awesome. God was doing amazing things. Our church was growing like crazy, but we didn't have enough staff. It was my husband basically as the pastor. So we're living in a fishbowl as a pastor's family, missionary family, and my kids were misdiagnosed. So I didn't understand why everything was so hard because I didn't understand what I was dealing with. And then I had no support system. Zero. I mean, my husband, but he was as confused as I was. So I should have found some professional help at that time. I just didn't have any. If I'd been in the States, it would have been different. But being overseas, it was very interesting. I think that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing now is trying to encourage families, get the help you need. There's always somewhere, either with a pastor or a church friend who understands what you're going through. You can have someone to talk to, a sounding board. I had friends who cared and who wanted to help, but they didn't know any better than I did what we were going through. So that made it a challenge. It really did.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll also mention that the most important time are the formable years. So when that child is young, that's when a lot of the connections are forming within their brain. That's when a lot of development is occurring. So the more you can try to do when they're young, the better that foundation is going
Mm.
to become regarding their understanding and their communication. So all of those things matter, you know.
Yeah. So being honest with yourself and not in denial. We don't have time for denial. We've got to face it and recognize that God's in it. God's got a plan. This is not a surprise to him, and he can guide us through it. I think if parents can just hold on to that. I love that you're writing books that speak to these Christ like qualities that our children need to learn. You're giving them the vocabulary they need to communicate what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Do you have other books that are going to be along these same lines as talking about Patricia Learns Patience? Do you have some others about some of the other qualities?
Well, Terry, I know you're an author as well. Aren't we always writing?
Well, that's true.
So, yes, it's going to be a series. Patricia is my first book. So, the next one will be Kevin Learns to Be Kind. So, that book is in the process of being written. I will also find that within writing these books, I'm doing all these rewrites. Like, I've never done so many. I've written books and I'm writing the other books, but it seems like with a children's book, I keep doing drafts and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites. You know,
Yes.
Patricia learns patience with the start of that story is completely different now from what it was. Everything's changed. So I'm hesitant to talk about the story of Kevin because by the time I get it published, it's probably going to be completely different.
It's so true. I, I can relate to that so much. When I felt God calling me to write children's books, I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be awesome. Piece of cake. And I
Right.
mean, 25 edits later, rewrites
Right.
later. And then you have to worry about word
Yes.
count. And if you're using too high a vocabulary and all of those things, oh
Right.
my goodness. But it is so much fun. It's such an adventure. But oh my goodness, it is not a piece of cake.
Mm-mm. No. Like I was saying, like the coloring book and the other book I had written for the layperson, mental health, those were a piece of cake. The children's book, it really transformed me. I'm a better person. I'm a better version of myself today because of that book.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Elisha, so much for being here. I've so enjoyed getting to know you and talking with you. This has been great.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on the show. I absolutely loved you. It went by like this.
It
Time just flew
did.
by.